Imagine one day you're working in retail. Customer says, "Can I please have a price check?" Say, "Price check for what?" They say, "Happiness." What are you going to tell them? Well, let's talk about it today on StaRrow. Great to see you guys. It's your host, StaRrow. I'm glad to be back in front of you again. And today's topic is going to be, how much does happiness cost? And can we really figure out the answer to that question? But anyways, I've together a little presentation for you guys, so give me 1 second here. I'm going to pull it up. How much does happiness cost? By StaRrow. All right. We've got our little emojis to represent all the emotions, but anyways, let's dive in. So first section I decided to talk about was basic needs, and I thought this was beautifully brought together by this quote by Mae West. Love conquers all things except poverty and toothache. Obviously, in life, there's times where we know that money is not everything, but sometimes money is the thing that you need to get through certain problems in life. Now, imagine if every grocery store in America was accepting tears as a form of payment. The only thing that would be left would just be slippery when wet signs, and all the food would be gone. So, anyways, let's continue. I decided to first attack Maslow's hierarchy of needs with this topic. This is something that usually you would learn in college level psychology, and if not, possibly high school, or I don't know what they're teaching the kids nowadays, so maybe they got it in fourth grade. But, anyways, this is just a great example of how human beings see their needs being met. And I really wanted to show this because I think a lot of people are wondering what they need. And I think this is a great tool for people to, you know, I guess, connect with what they've probably been missing. As we can see here, we have the physiological needs: air, food, water, sleep, protection, all that other stuff. Those are the most important things that we all need to survive, right? We got safety needs, health and well-being, financial security, all that other stuff. Love and belonging, family, friendship, community, romantic relationships, just to name a few. Esteem, your self-respect, your confidence, respect from others, reputation, self-actualization, creativity, personal growth, moral development, pursuit of meaning, purpose-driven action. Now, mind you, I think when Abraham Maslow made this, I think he was intending for it to be like a bottom to the top, like any other pyramid. However, some people are going to have more needs that are not being met in certain categories more than others. And I also wanted to explain that while money is important, we have to understand the context of what we're living in. I think we can easily argue that people in less developed countries may be more worried about the physiological and the safety needs more than all the other stuff. Because survival is important in every aspect of life, but in other countries, people are fighting for their day-to-day survival. They don't know where the next meal is going to come from. In our context, we have the grocery store. We have a lot of access to all the goods and supplies that we need. It's just that, in more developed nations, I think people are searching for the other things because once you satisfy something, chances are you're going to crave something else. And I think a lot of people in more developed nations are looking for that love and that esteem and that self-actualization, which is, now that I get my day-to-day needs met, what else is it that I could be doing to make myself a better person? And I just really wanted to say that money takes care of the basic needs no matter what. That's just the bottom line. And I think a lot of people, if they were to have their basic needs met, they'd be a much happier person. So that's why I decided to start with this. But feel free to use this as a resource. I know it's very popular, and I think people kind of gloss over this, but this is very important. So, how much is enough, right? I mean, and I get it, right? We got over all the whole, I got my needs met and all this other stuff, but you got to put a number to it, right? Because everybody says, some people believe the world is defined by numbers. So we got to start getting to the numbers, StaRrow. I get it. I get it. We're going to get there, right? But let's take a look at this quote by one of the famous musical legends of all time, Robert Nesta Marley. Money is numbers, and numbers never end. If it takes money to be happy, your search for happiness will never end. Well, Bob is giving us some wise words here, right? Numbers, they do go up to infinity. We have exponents. If you remember in math class, they gave you those numbers and they put like a little tiny number on the top right corner just to express how big numbers can get, to the point where we can't even write them down on a piece of paper. And I'm sure a lot of you have been on a calculator before, where the calculator will send back an error message, not because the equation is impossible. It's just that the calculator can't even process that deep of numbers, to give you an answer. Now, with this, I think Bob, or I think, was it born in 1945, died in 1981. I think during his time, he had his song, One Love, One Heart, Let's Get Together and Be All Right. Well, I think that's a great message, and it still applies today. Let's just say, due to economic problems, inflation has occurred. So I don't think one love and one heart's going to cut it. We need 10 love and 10 heart. But anyways, that's just a short little thing there. All right, let's continue. So there's some research, right? We got some research, very important for this topic. We had two Nobel Peace Prize recipients, Daniel Kahneman and Angus Deaton from Princeton University. They conducted a study in 2010. The focus of the study was on the relationship between money, emotional well-being, and life evaluation. They concluded that emotional well-being plateaus are around $75,000 in annual income, so $108,000 today. And this study emphasized overall well-being, which left room for exploration. So, $75,000 essentially was what they believed to be the maximum amount of money that somebody could make as far as their emotional well-being was concerned. Maybe their evaluation of life was able to go up, but as far as them feeling any better of a person, or I don't know, feeling more fulfilled, that seemed to run out at about $75,000, which is $108,000 in today's economy. But in 2021, you had some UPenn professors, Matthew Killingsworth and Barbara Mellers, and Daniel Kahneman, actually from Princeton. They decided to team up, all three of them, to do a cross academic study as far as the institutions are concerned. And they wanted to look at the day-to-day life, happiness that people were experiencing with the group of participants that they found. And they're able to find that happiness actually does increase past $75,000. However, what was found is that the unhappiest people in every single group, their happiness ran out at about $100,000 a year, which, if I'm not mistaken, that's close to the top 10%, top 15% of the world. But anyways, $100,000 a year was not cutting it. That was the maximum amount for the people who were unhappy. And it says right here, Killingsworth had stated that the exception is people who are financially well off but unhappy. For instance, if you're rich and miserable, more money won't help. For everyone else, more money was associated with higher happiness to somewhat varying degrees. Essentially, guys, there's a point in life where you have to ask yourself, am I happy with who I am, or am I happy currently, right? If I'm not happy and I'm going to seek out money to get me happy, that's probably not going to work. And I think, unfortunately, given the way that we live, I think there's a idea that, hey, if I get more money, it'll make me more happy. But that's not necessarily how it works. You've got to, I guess, find out if you are already happy, and then the money will make you more happier. So if you're miserable, chances are the money will make you more miserable. But, very good information. And now you can apply some numbers to your head. So if you've been making $150,000 a year, chances are you're not going to get that much happier if you're an unhappy person. But if you're a happy person, then kudos to you. Continue to go. So what are my key takeaways with all of this? It's good to have money and things money can buy. But it's good, too, to check up once in a while and make sure you haven't lost the things that money can't buy. George Lorimer. I'm actually not too familiar with this guy, so he doesn't get a joke from me. But anyways, I think this is just a great quote, just to sum up that money gives us access to a lot of things. A lot of us are lacking in areas of our life, and sometimes money can give us access to these things. So we don't want to take that for granted. However, even once you do accumulate money, you have to make sure that you check on the things that that can't be purchased. And we're going to dive a little deeper into that right here. In a nutshell, wealth amplifies your true self. Let's just go over my summary right here. Let's all agree that a life free from financial burdens is easier than a life riddled with financial burdens. However, happiness comes from within. We all see that happy individuals become happier with more money. Unhappy individuals cannot find happiness with more money. If your unhappiness isn't just tied to a list of bills, then it may be time to seek help, therapy, knowledge, and support. Be open to changing some of your ways if they are perpetuating your unhappiness. I have to say that because some people are doing things that are making them unhappy, and they have to figure out what those things are in order for them to change. And last but not least, look for the things that aren't money: your family, your friends, romance, experiences, and purposes. These are not meant to be exclusive, but inclusive. I only put that in there, guys, because not everybody has everything to the fullest degree, and that's usually how life is. We won't have all of what we need from all aspects of life. But what I've tended to find is that the happiest people usually tend to have a combination of these things. They have a few family members. They also have a great network of friends. They usually have a partner, or a wife, a husband, whatever it is, or a good relationship going. They travel the world. They take experiences. They do things with people that are memories and not just tied to a cost. They have a purpose, whether that be their religion or maybe they are trying to help people. They have something to live for instead of living through things. They have something or a goal or ambition that they're chasing. I think all of these things together usually creates a happy person. Now, mind you, I'm speaking of that from a first world context because there are some people in other parts of the world who, quite frankly, they just want food, a table to eat, and a house to live. And that's not the case, for everybody. Just like how it's not the case that we can have all these things, because in a country like America, Canada, UK, Europe, are there any other developed nations, people can definitely attach themselves to a lot of other things to achieve their happiness. But with all that said, don't worry, be happy. I just want to make this video because I think as we live in this world right now, a lot of people are pushing for fulfillment, right? And a lot of the times people say, I got to make more money. I got to make more money. And while that may be true, just understand that if you're not happy inside, then no amount of money will be able to change you. So think twice, make sure you know who you are and what you want before you decide to get the money. Because ultimately, the way you use money is actually a result of who you are as a person. But anyways, like I said, don't worry, be happy, take life one day at a time, and just know that somebody out there loves you. Maybe it's not the person you want, but somebody out there loves you and cares for you and wants the best for you. So thank you, guys. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. This is StaRrow. I look forward to seeing you guys on the next episode. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And also, I'm available for listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many other platforms. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.